Today's Path Beyond is going to be about the Marmot. It's not so much a story about something that I experienced. I guess it is a little bit indirectly. However, the primary story is about the Marmot and who he was and what he represented. Tim and some other folks would frequently tell stories about one time when they were drinking and the Marmot said this or the Marmot did that. And this guy, the Marmot, was achieving legend status in my head, and I'd never even met the guy before. All I knew is that anytime someone told a story about him, they smiled really broadly. They just were very excited to even bring his name up. He was out of the country, he was traveling somewhere. The word was that he was a big-time traveler, which I thought was pretty interesting because I know that Japanese people love to travel. As a culture, they love to travel. Generally speaking though, Japanese travel is more package travel, more organized through maybe like a travel agency, like a package deal with transportation and lodging and whatnot. That's a big generalization, but at that time that was very much the norm. And from all reports, it sounded like Mamoru, that's the Marmot's real name. And from all reports, the Marmot didn't travel like that. Apparently he was a bit of a free spirit. He was more like a Westerner, a young Westerner traveling. And we got word that he was going to be back in town. I was excited to meet the guy. The people that already knew him were excited just to see him again and hear some new stories about new places he had been. So he arrived. We were going to meet him for a couple beers at an izakaya. Tim and I were casually drinking some ice cold beers, and the front door slid open and the head ducked in, and I thought, that's gotta be the Marmot. There's no way that's not the Marmot. The person stepping through the door was a lean Japanese guy, and he was very tan. Very, very, very tan. The kind of tan that I had only really seen on local farmers or commercial fishermen or laborers that were just in the sun all day. Generally speaking, I didn't see many tan people at all where I lived. So I thought, okay. And he was wearing skinny jeans and beach style, like really thin flip-flops. And he had dyed his hair a little bit, so it was kind of blondish, rusty, brownish color, and is all parted and hipster looking. And he had this huge grin on his face with these buck teeth. They weren't like severely buck teeth, but he had some big teeth. And I thought, okay, this has got to be the Marmot. And he was smiling. I wasn't used to seeing strangers smile in public, out there on a day-to-day basis. So I thought, okay, this has got to be the Marmot. And so he waved, and he's like, "Oh, Tim," and he came over, and we made introductions, and we started ordering some snacks and ordering some cold beers. And he was as great as I had heard he was. There was no hype about this guy. The way Tim and everyone had described him was perfect. He was the most open, pleasant, interesting guy that I had met in a while. And he was a local Japanese guy. He was from the area, but he didn't live in the area. So we got to talking, learning about his most recent trip, and it turns out the Marmot was a diehard surfer. He was just, in his heart, he was always searching for the perfect wave, which was what he had said. I don't know if he'd gotten that from a movie or a documentary. But that's what he did. He would come home, work a little bit, and then disappear. He might live in Australia for 6 months. He might live, in Bali. Or he might even go to America, go to Hawaii. And he would live and interact with other foreigners and other international folks and just explore the world and become a unique guy. And because of that, his English conversation was so natural. It was clear that he had spent a lot of time spending only casual English, which totally made sense once he told us that, he was just traveling being a surf guy And all these surf places, of course, English is the most common language, so he would just start learning everyday natural English. It was really surprising how relaxed and good he was at it. And I was impressed with the guy. Getting out of any small town in the world is tough. That's where our roots are. That's where our future probably is going to be if we don't make a drastic change. And he did. He decided his path beyond was going to be to pursue surfing, to pursue that lifestyle, that free, healthy, nature-driven lifestyle where he could commune with other fellow surfers literally all around the world, because that is what he had been doing and that's what he was going to continue to do. At least that's what he told us, and we had no reason to not believe him. It was great for me to meet him, one, because of his reputation, and two, for me to get a taste of what other Japanese people could be like. Up until that point, I had only had a very specific type of interaction with the locals. It was very predictable. It's not to say that all stereotypes are true or all generalizations apply to everyone. However, getting into routine in a small town, you start to see the same thing over and over and over again. Meeting the Marmot was eye-opening to me because it was a reminder that, cultures aren't monoliths. Cultures are comprised of individual people that have their own goals, their own challenges, their own desires, and their own paths. And the Marmot clearly had his own path, and it was such a treat to meet a guy like that. And to think I only met him a few times. And I still think about that guy and how happy he was and how he just decided that he was going to pursue this new path in his life and break free from the norm and get out of small town Japan. It was inspiring, and maybe he was a kindred spirit to some of us that had gotten out of our own hometowns and our own paths and moved over to Japan or any other country that people move to. Maybe there was a kindred spirit type of phenomenon going there where we were doing different paths and we were different people and had different interests, yet there was that common through thread. And that's really the thread of Paths Beyond. This video channel, this podcast, this episode, it's that kind of thread where we realize that we're not that different as people, irrespective of where in the world we are or what age we are or what we're interested in or what our family life is like. We're all pretty similar at the end of the day. Thanks for watching Paths Beyond. See you on the next one.